Atlanta Falcons 24, New Orleans Saints 15. Falcons move to 5-6. Saints fall to 5-6. Falcons currently in first in the NFC South with that 5-6 record. Man, the Saints don't play normal football games. Neither do the Falcons. There was a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Among the key plays, Jesse Bates. I want to talk about the Saints and their red zone woes again, because they entered the red zone 5 times, and they did not have any touchdowns on any red zone trips.
It's not ideal.
In part because once they got there, Derek Carr on 3rd and 3 throws a 92-yard pick six to Jesse Bates. Unbelievable. I mean, Jesse Bates, if you watch the play, he's just reading it. You can kind of see him slow playing it, be like, he's not really going to throw it, is he? He's not really. Oh, he threw it. I got it. I'm out.
He has no shot at this, I think, because of the season that other people are having. But Jesse Bates is quietly putting together a pretty solid Defensive Player of the Year type of season, like a good candidacy that in other years would have a real shot at winning it. I mean, he's made some spectacular plays this season, some really high leverage plays as well. It's just, this is a year where edge rushers, there's like 6 of them all dominating.
But that's why, from a PFF grading standpoint, the position that tends to fluctuate the most is safety. And I don't think it's a PFF grading issue. It really is a football issue. Like Jesse Bates wasn't making these plays last year. But
it's entirely, as much as you can make the play, you're still dependent on the quarterback putting it there.
Of course.
Bryce Young, earlier in the season, essentially knew Jesse Bates was there, thought he was going to move, didn't move, still took a shot. Like, if he doesn't take the shot, it's just a play. Yeah. It's a snap that means nothing.
But like Bates was making some of these plays, say in 2021, wasn't doing it as much last year, but he is making these plays this year. 92-yard pick six and a peanut punch on Taysom Hill.
Yes.
In the red zone.
Taysom Hill, whose one critical flaw is not like versatility that's useless to everybody. It's that the dude can't stop fumbling.
Yeah. So that was a huge part of the Falcons' win here. You also have the eventual game winner was a wheel route to Bijan Robinson. Really well-designed play because he was coming from the opposite side. Wheel route, Desmond Ridder threw it up and put it right on him for a 26-yard touchdown. That was beautiful when Bijan was actually catching the ball. He had a couple drops in there. He ran the ball well as well. And then the Saints, again, from their perspective, another empty 304 passing yards from Derek Carr that weren't leading to touchdowns because, again, they entered the red zone 5 times. And the plays were bad.
Carr had such a weird game, though. Like it felt like early on he was absolutely dealing, but his bad plays were horrendous.
Pick six and a fumble in there.
It also doesn't help that like half the Saints offense left the game injured at one point or another. Like Chris Olave was absolutely destroying people, gets hurt. Like half the offense ended up being banged up and missing the game at some point. Like Lynn Bowden Jr. ends up being a random, really important part of the offense simply because other people are getting banged up. Offensive line was getting hurt.
Like McCoy, center, injured.
Yeah, Ryan Ramczyk injured as well. I mean, they got really banged up at various points in this game.
So I wrote down some of the highlights of the Saints' red zone possessions. So you've got the Jesse Bates pick six, the Jesse Bates forced fumble on Taysom Hill that they lost. You also have Derek Carr. He has Rashid Shaheed open on a slant, throws it low. If you put it on him, it's probably a walk-in touchdown. Puts it low. Still probably should have been caught by Shaheed. But it would have put him down at the 1, maybe in the end zone. But it was a low throw and a drop at the same time. Carr throws a pass to A.T. Perry, who's run blocking, while Carr is throwing a fade. So you had a miscommunication there. You have a third down sack where Arnold Ebiketie gets through in about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah. Against whoever the backup was it Landon Young because Ramczyk was hurt?
Yes. And you have Alvin Kamara. As soon as they get into the red zone, 2-yard run, holding call takes them out of the red zone. They eventually end up with a 39-yard field goal. I mean, if the teams that are tough to figure out, right, when we sit here analyzing every single week and we talk about underlying metrics and the grades are good or the yards are good or EPA is good, but the win-loss record isn't. And the Saints aren't necessarily that. They've been very inconsistent. But the teams that probably should be better than their record and are confusing, it's usually the situational football stuff, right? It usually is red zone and turnovers, and the Saints were just bad at all of this yesterday. It was the turnovers, It was penalties at the wrong time. It was just not being good once they get inside the 20 of the opposing team. Once again, they can't do it. So credit the Falcons, man. They made those plays. As I mentioned, Jesse Bates made those plays, but this has been a year-long issue for the Saints, who are still really talented. Yeah, they've had injuries and everything, but they should be better than they are.
Yeah, and to be fair, like they needed Tyrann Mathieu making a couple of like him doing his Jesse Bates on the other side,
True.
trying to keep them in the game to make this as close as it was. It's just a bizarre game because you're right. Like they had a lot of production and they made a lot of big plays moving the football, and then just got nothing out of those big plays. Whereas the Falcons actually punished them when they had opportunities.
All right, the one other play we have to highlight here is the John Cena play.
Ah, yes.
So the Falcons have 4th and 2. And so I like the creativity here a little bit.
You do, huh?
Well, I didn't like the way it ended. I like the creativity of putting an offensive lineman in motion. Michigan's been doing some of this at the college level this year.
Somebody did that, Seahawks. Seahawks did it, in fact, to the 49ers. Because remember there was a meme last year when the 49ers put Trent Williams in motion a few times, and he was just like bulldoze some poor people.
Yeah.
And like, he's already the best run-blocking left tackle in the NFL. Now you're going to give him a running head start at humans? This is just bullying. I think it was the Seahawks did it. Was it Stone Forsythe or somebody? And it's like, it was the Lions. Because it was, I think it was Dan Skipper.
Skipper, who I tweeted out as it's Dan Skinner, but it was Skipper. Yes.
Skipper. And it's like, wow, this looks a lot different when Dan Skipper is the guy in motion as opposed to Trent Williams. Like, Trent Williams in motion, you're like, this is an unstoppable moving force of humanity headed towards a defender. When Dan Skipper's in motion, you're like, this doesn't feel like a big problem.
All right, Mike, I dropped it in the chat here. If we could, I don't know if we can put the picture up if it's too late. I should have done it earlier, but my joke was this is John Cena playing right tackle.
Yeah.
But they moved Caleb McGarry from right tackle to tight end. And I don't mind this as a concept, but like when teams usually do this, they have the tight end come in and play right tackle. The Falcons actively chose to play the snap without an actual right tackle.
Yes. So
there's just a gap there.
They have a combined B and C gap.
Yes.
So we go A gap, and then we have B and C gap, which is like 3 times the size of a normal gap.
It is just funny because if the Arthur Smith joke is, the goal is to do what no one's expecting us to do. That's what we're going to... This is the ultimate.
Did you watch the clip that I sent you?
movie.
Yeah, so they then the long and the short of this is they then ran the ball at the gap that had no body in it.
Yeah, and honestly, the play could have worked if they didn't blow 2 blocks. Right guard and fullback both missed their block, and it looked horrendous. But they also ran right at the vacated right tackle spot, yes.
Did you watch the clip that I sent you that it reminded me of, that Arthur Smith reminds me of?
You've sent me that clip probably once a year for the last 7 years. So I knew what it was. I already knew what the clip was.
It's from a sitcom, a British sitcom called Blackadder, in which Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, shows up to talk to Prince George, or what he thinks is Prince George. And he's saying, right, Napoleon is stationed in North Africa, right? The Napoleonic Wars, if you're watching the movie, you'll know. Napoleon is stationed in North Africa, so where have we got Nelson stationed? And the guy goes, Alaska, in case Boney should try and trick us by coming via the North Pole. And he just like looks at him like, what, you an idiot. This is what I feel like Arthur Smith tries to do, right? What are we trying to do? Well, we're going to run through this gap that nobody's in, because that's the last thing they'll be expecting, just in case they should try and trick us that way by putting no bodies in that gap that we put. Like, okay, but no, there's a reason that it's the last thing nobody's expecting you to do, because it's the last thing you should be doing.
It was just a very funny play, yeah. On 4th and 2, it did get stopped. On the other hand, this was also one of those games. The Falcons end up winning. They had to force those turnovers and everything. The run game was really effective other than that 4th and 2 with no right tackle. Drake London had a good game, and they overcame Desmond Ridder in a couple interceptions. So 24-15, Falcons win. Currently the leader in the NFC South, and would be hosting the Dallas Cowboys if the playoffs started today.
Glorious.